Welcome to the behind the scenes of Opera McGill's Livestream setup.
First things first, let's talk big picture. For this live stream, we are working with 4 cameras. A Sony FX3 on the left with a 24-105 focused on medium and medium wide shots. A Sony FX6 with a 70-200 on the right focused on 2 shots and close-ups. A Sony FX30 with a 100-400 at the very end of the hall behind all of the audience focused on close-ups. And finally, another Sony FX30 with a 24-70 clamped to the guardrail on the balcony using a Manfrotto magic arm, which is our wide. Okay, let's dive deeper.
The way we do our multicam setup for the FX6 is we just plug a 6G BNC directly into the camera. The camera is 12G compatible on the output, but we don't have 12G cables today. However, for 4K 30, it's plenty more than enough. Today's live stream we're doing at 3840 by 2160, so ultra high definition. And for that 4K 30, 6G cable is good. On the camera, we have a Canon 70-200. The reason why we have that is just because we used to have a Canon camera before and we still haven't gotten a Sony lens. It's actually very inconvenient because you don't have autofocus, we don't have the Metabones speed booster, or rather the Metabones converter. We just have the Sigma one and it's not compatible with Canon. So that's unfortunate. That being said, it's still a great lens and it'll do for the time being. So the FX6 is the only camera that has a BNC out, so let me show you what we're doing for the other cameras. So now here we have an FX30 with a Sigma 100-400. The reason why we're using an FX30 here is because we're at the very end of the hall, so this is where the audience is going to be sitting. We're behind the audience with an elevated tripod, and so to get that extra 1.5 times crop, we're using a crop sensor camera, so this is equivalent to 600 millimeters when it's all the way zoomed in. That extra 200 makes a huge difference. The camera is actually on a Satchler head. I think this is a Video 25, but come a little bit closer. This is one of my favorite things to look at. I don't know if you can see that on camera. Made in West Germany. So how do we get BNC out? Well, it's actually quite simple. We have HDMI out of the camera. These cameras can do, I believe, 3840 by 2160 out of these. HDMI out of the camera, and then down here, we have a little converter, HDMI to SDI. It's important to get SDI at a certain point because HDMI can only do, I forget exactly what the length is, but I'll put it on the screen now. We need at least 200 feet where we're at the moment, and so it's important to get to a 6G SDI just as before, and then we go to the patch in the back and pick it up in the control room. I grabbed the wireless unit because I'm not sure if the range will make it backstage. All right, well here it's pretty simple. There's a patch bay, SDI patch bay. Look at how beautiful that is. I don't know if you guys have a lot of experience looking at patch bays in theaters, but they're not usually like this. This is very nice. And then here on the top left, on the patch bay, you can see our 4 cameras going in, where we'll get them in the control room. Oh, wow, and through the magic of the patch bay, now we're in the control room. Damn, those cables are fast. From the patch bay, we connect everything to our video switcher, which is the Blackmagic ATEM 1ME. Here we can do up to 10 cameras. Today we're only doing 4. Below we have the Ultra Studio 4K Mini, which is the encoder that we use to get to OBS. And right next to it, we have the HyperDeck Mini 2, I believe, Mini as well, which is just a recorder. We throw an SD card in there and we can record either the subtitles or the program with titles on it. In the back, we also have a bunch of fans, which is what's making all that noise because this whole setup can overheat. Up here, we've got the multi-viewer. So, as you can see, they're doing some lighting tests on stage at the moment. And here I'll be able to see my 4 cameras and cut using the software on my laptop. So the nice thing about our system is that we have a router that is connected to everything. So even though I'm not tethered with an Ethernet cable, I can still control, let's see what I can show you, the entire system. And then during the show, of course, for reliability, I do plug in an Ethernet cable. But for the time being, that's okay. Here we have a Shogun 7 We keep calling it a Shogun Inferno, but actually it's a Shogun 7, where I record the show and I also use it for color because I don't always trust the TVs I'm using. Next to the multi-viewer, we always have a little speaker so that the director can listen to the show. In today's layout, we actually are right next to the audio team, so probably not going to use it, but it's always good to set things up. Even if you don't expect to use it, then realize you need it in the middle of the show. Here we've got the M1 Mac Mini, which is our streaming computer, where we're running OBS. And we have this test words here on screen so that we can see whether the program we're recording is the program with text or if it's just the clean program. We like to record a version of each so that if the show goes super well, we don't have to overlay all the titles in post. But if the show doesn't go well, we can always edit with more flexibility. So it's important to have a recording of both and a recording of the subtitles. Today we're doing Opera, so we do have subtitles. We have used other streaming softwares in the past. We've used vMix, we've used Wirecast, but I think we find that OBS works just fine for our needs, especially in 4K. OBS does quite well in 4K. And it doesn't have color shifts like other softwares do, in our experience. As far as the audio setup is concerned, because it is an Opera McGill production, it is being handled by the sound recording master students of the Schulich School of Music, and so I will hand it to them to discuss what it is that they're doing.
Hi, my name is Santiago Garcia Cuevas. I am a first-year master's student at McGill University in the sound recording program, and I am the audio lead for the production of Orfeo and Eurydice at Teatro Paradox for the McGill Baroque Opera. So in terms of the miking, we're running something like 27 channels at the moment. The most important thing that we're doing is we have 6 different hanging mics. So we have sort of a cube capture with DPA 4006s, 2 downstage and 2 upstage mics. And additionally, we're running a main pair of MK2Ss to point to the edges of the stage and fill some of the holes that the DPAs cannot capture. In addition to this, we are running something like 15 spot mics for everything that is in the pit of the opera. We don't have a real pit. That was one of the bigger challenges, and we had to make sure that nothing was blocked for video or for the audience, while also getting a good capture from all of the different parts of the orchestra. For the production, we're running an analog split that goes from the stage into 2 different places. Just in case one of them happens to fail, we have a second one so that we know for sure that we're going to have something and that we're not going to lose neither the recording or the send to the live stream. In addition to the mainly analog chain that we have running through the board, we also have a digital audio section that goes all the way from the Snakes down to the Yamaha SIU into these RME MADI bridge, which is responsible for splitting the signal into the different places that we needed. This includes this computer that is running Pro Tools, a second computer that is not here at the moment but will be here at the time of the show, just in case one of them happens to fail. If Pro Tools happens to crash for whatever reason, we have a backup to make sure that we always have the audio no matter what. And finally, another send into the board so that we can listen to what's coming out of Pro Tools Live if we need to check that there's no digital distortion. In addition to this, we have this unit, the NanoSyncs HD by Rosendahl, which is responsible for both timecode for both the audio and the video team, as well as for the word clock for the different devices that we have running. The final piece of equipment is this Lexicon PCM96. It's a rather small venue, so we are definitely trying to make it sound larger than what it is using the unit. And now I'll send you back to John so that he can wrap it up.
So before I wrap up, I guess I could talk a little bit more about the ATEM software control. So this is the software that controls the video switcher that I showed you guys earlier. Here you can select cameras. The first tab is the switcher, so you can select cameras, you can do fading transitions, you can put things into the preview and then cut for it to go live. There's a lot of very cool things here, but there's so much more that you can do with the software. Media, you can import media clips, for example, if you want to show an interview in the middle of intermission, for example, or if you wanted to roll credits, you can do that all within the software. Audio tab, and I found this one to be a lifesaver sometimes. We have the stereo feed coming from the sound recording engineers. Right now there's not much coming through because there's nothing happening on stage, but you can also get the individual feeds of each camera. So the way this has saved me in the past is if for whatever reason something happens with the audio team, instead of having no audio, I can always turn on, let's say, camera 2, like that. There's not much coming in right now, but I could always turn on camera 2 and get that audio feed temporarily. Bad audio is better than no audio. And lastly, if you are using Blackmagic cameras, which we're not today, but we do sometimes, you can control color, gain, shutter, white balance, and even iris and focus. You can control all of those parameters for up to 10 cameras if you're using Blackmagic cameras and if you have the program feed going back to the cameras. So embedded into that program feed, you have all of this extra information. It's a fantastic workflow for Blackmagic users. That's all I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed this behind the scenes. If you did make it this far into the video, I would greatly appreciate that like and subscribe. And if you do subscribe, I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.